Hello, this is Music Tech Help Guy, and welcome to episode 29 of my Logic Pro 10 video tutorial series. In this episode, we'll take a look at using controller assignments to control synthesizer controls, effects controls, and even mix controls like volume and pan. Controller assignments are things like faders and knobs on your MIDI controller. These are what are also known as continuous controllers. And using the controller assignments dialog, we're going to learn how to map our continuous controllers, knobs and faders, to controls in our synthesizers, in our maybe our effects plugins, or other mix controls like maybe a volume fader, or a pan knob, or a send amount. So first, let me just show you what I have going on here. It's just a very basic musical idea with kind of a synth lead up here, and then just a basic drum pattern down here. All right, so let's say we want to give the synth lead up here a little more dynamic kind of feel, or to give it just some more dynamics with maybe some synthesizer effects. Maybe I want like a filter to kind of gradually close and open up across the timeline to give it kind of like a filter sweep effect. What we can do to make that happen is actually go into that synths window, the actual synthesizer window. So toward the top of the plugin, or the top of the channel strip, you'll see the plugin for the that instrument. This is the EXS24. It's a sampler that's included with Logic. You just click on that, and this will open up the instruments window. Now, what we can do here is we can find any knob or fader that we want to be able to control with our MIDI controller. And the control I want to control is our filter cutoff right here. Now, in order to control this, to actually hear an effect on the sound, when I move this, I'm going to have to actually turn on the filter right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this plugin off screen, and I'm going to move this around with my mouse to see what it sounds like, just so you can hear what it sounds like, and I'll just hit play. So you can hear there's an effect on the tone. This is a low-pass filter that's kind of scooping out the highs in the signal, but it'd be really cumbersome to try to have to move this with your mouse. So what we can do is, instead of moving this with our mouse, assign it to a knob or fader on our MIDI controller. So the way to go about this is, I'm just going to move this off to the side here, is to bring up the controller assignments window. The way you pull this up is you press Shift Option K. Now in Logic 9, this used to be Command K. It is now Shift Option K. So there we go. Pull this up. And this is probably a good time to remind everyone that you need to make sure to turn on your advanced tools under Logic Pro 10, Preferences, Advanced Tools. I'm not 100% sure that this is one of the advanced MIDI tools, but I can only imagine. This seems to be a question I'm getting all the time. But yeah, you got to make sure you turn on your advanced tools in order to fully get all of Logic's advanced features. So this is the controller assignments window. There's basically two views. There's an easy view and an expert view. I always use the expert view. I've never used the easy view, so I'm just going to use the expert view. And what we do is there's a button down here that says Learn Mode. So what you do is you click on that, and it says no message received. It's waiting for our MIDI controller, or it's waiting for a MIDI message from our MIDI controller to be received. So what I'm going to do is click on the knob or fader in the plugin that I actually want to learn. It's the cutoff knob here. So you just click on that, and then just move the fader on your MIDI controller that you want to map it to, that you want to learn it to. And now, when I press up, I can open up that filter. When I press down, I can close that filter. And you'll see up here in the list, it now says learned. So we've learned to control. Now, if I wanted to maybe simultaneously control the resonance with another controller, well, I'll just click on that and then move a separate fader. And now I've learned that one. And after you're done learning controls, you just make sure to go down to the lower right corner and turn off your Learn Mode button here. And again, you'll see that now my two faders on my MIDI controller, if I would just move those up and down, you'll see now I have independent control of these two knobs in the synthesizer with two faders on my MIDI controller. So now I can close that out. I can close this window out. And then I can play around with the knobs, play around with the faders on my MIDI controller while this track plays back. So I'm just going to mute the drum track and play around with these just a bit. And just so you can get an idea of what's going on there, let me just go ahead and open up that plugin again so you can see the two controls. And there you go. Now, the problem with this is that if I just hit record again and start moving those faders up and down, it's not going to learn the motions that I play in on the track. What you actually have to do is you have to write it in as automation. And we talked about previously in one of the earlier videos that automation is just a way to change control values across time on our track. What we're going to do is we're going to write in live automation with those two faders, and so the automation will draw in whatever position those two faders are on. And the way you do this is you just press A anywhere in the arrange area here. This will pull up your automation view. And what we need to do is we need to turn on an automation mode here. And by the way, if this little button right here is not on, automation is not enabled for the track, so make sure that's in yellow. But right here, where it says read, that just means that it's currently reading automation on the track. We actually want to write new automation on the track. So let's click on that, and you'll see that there's 4 modes. You have read, touch, latch, and write. Touch, latch, and write are our live automation modes, which basically means that we can press play and then move these mapped faders up and down, and it'll record the position of those two faders. And as you probably I kind of alluded to, you can actually have multiple lanes of automation, not just one. So I can have 2 different controls have automation at the same time. Now, what I'm going to use for this is latch mode, and here's why. With touch mode, when you push a fader up and then let go of the control will jump back down to 0, at least as long as the fader is a touch sensitive fader. Latch mode, when you push a fader up and then let go, the value will stay there. So that's what I'm going to use for this. Write mode I don't use much because it overwrites everything on the track. So if you indeed want to overwrite everything on the track, you can use that. But for synthesizer stuff, I typically use latch. So I'm going to turn latch mode on. And all you have to do at this point is press play. You do not have to press record. And then you can move the faders on your MIDI controller, and you'll see the values start to be drawn in. And there you go. Now, if you want to start from scratch, you want to delete the automation on the track, well, you can either just immediately hit Command-Z to undo, obviously, but you can also click on the track, go up to Mix, and then go to Delete Automation. Then you can, there's several delete automation options. The one I'm going to use is Delete Visible Automation on Selected Track. And so that will delete the automation that we see there. You can actually also use your automation select tool to select the automation and hit delete. So let's try that one more time. And I'm going to play in a different shape this time. So kind of like a filter fade-in effect is what I'm doing there. Now, let's say I also want to play in that resonance fader that I learned. Well, all you have to do is press play again and then move the fader. It'll draw a second line of automation. And what you'll see, it's kind of dim there, but you can see in the background the blue line there, the faint blue line there is my cutoff, and then the purple is the resonance. Now, another thing that you can do is you can actually view multiple lanes of automation on a track. If you click on this little disclosure arrow here, it'll automatically open up another lane of automation that you currently have automation on. So we can now see our resonance up here, and we can see our cutoff right here. So now that we've got that drawn in, I'm going to click right here or press A again to hide automation. Make sure on the track to make sure to turn this from latch back to read mode, because otherwise you might accidentally draw in some new automation that you don't want. Let's go to our drum kit now. Now at the drum kit, I'm going to add an effect to this. I'm going to add a kind of an echo or like a delay effect. So I'm going to go under delay, and I'm going to go to echo. We'll use the echo effect. Now in this plugin, it's just a very basic echoing effect. There is one fader that says wet, and the wet is basically how much of the delay or the echo that we're hearing. The dry signal is how much of the original that we're hearing. So I'm going to pull the dry signal all the way up, and then I'm going to put the wet signal all the way down for now. But what I'm going to do is go back to our controller assignments window, remember Shift Option K, and I'm going to learn this wet fader with another fader on my MIDI controller. So I just click on Learn Mode again, click on that fader, and then move the fader on my MIDI controller, and then turn Learn Mode off. So now I can pull in the echoing effect just where I want it, and then pull it out when I don't want it. So again, on the track, hit A to open up automation, change the automation mode to latch, and then let's play with that fader. And there you go. Now, if you ever want to delete your controller assignments, let me go ahead and put this in read mode. There we go. You can go back just to the same controller assignment window we used before. And basically all you have to do is click on the controls that you want to delete and hit delete on the keyboard. And there you go. So I hope you enjoyed the video. In the next video, we'll get a little deeper into how to pair up your continuous controllers with synthesizer effects, and then actually get in and edit them in the piano roll editor instead of up in the arrange window. Because believe it or not, the piano roll editor actually has its own controller editor down here, and the controller editor basically shows you MIDI automation for your continuous controllers. It's very similar to what we just did up here, but this is more or less mix automation, and that down there is more or less continuous controller automation. So there's a slight difference, but it's in many ways it's two ways to do the same thing. So I'll let you choose which way you prefer after I show that in the next video. One other quick thing I should say before I end this video is if you hit Command 2 to open up your mixer, you can actually use the controller assignments window to learn your faders in your mixer as well as your pan knobs in the mixer. So if you're looking to just control the mixer, or to use your MIDI controller as essentially a control surface for mixing, you can do that as well. And it's the same process. You open up the controller assignments window, turn on Learn Mode, click on the knob, or click on the knob or fader in the mixer, move the knob or fader on your MIDI controller, and you're done. So again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.